when you are starting, this is why I don't think you should start MMA just for the money. And the money in MMA, you get paid peanuts until you're at the very, very top. Just because you're in the UFC doesn't mean you're getting paid well. A starting UFC wage is 12 and 12. If you think you fight 3 times a year, 12 plus 12 is 24 grand. You fight 3 times, that is, off the top of my head, 72 grand a year. But that's 72 grand US, and your pay isn't your pay. So then, with that 72 grand, you probably got to take 10% off for your coach, maybe 10 to 20% off for your management, and then whatever your tax is in that certain country. If you fight in America, that money will get taxed before you even get it. So that 72 grand is probably going to go to more of 40 grand. And 40 grand is a bog standard salary. And you've trained your whole life to get in that UFC. Maybe that took you 20 years just to get to the UFC, to get that standard wage. And it is one of them in the UFC where if you're at the very top, you will get paid very, very well. But if you're just at the bottom of the food chain in the UFC, it doesn't mean you're getting paid the greatest. You are going to train for probably 10 years without getting any money. The return on investment on camps is not going to be there. You will probably spend a couple grand on a camp and get back a couple £100 on a fight. You spend more money on training than you do from the actual fights. And that is why I think you should love doing the sport, especially at the start. And that's why you shouldn't really start for money, because you're going to have to put more money in than you're going to get out at the start. It's going to take 10 years, 15 years. Some people it might take longer, some people it might be a little bit less, until you get to that stage where your fights are paying more than your camps. But you don't only just want more, you want to surpass that, so then you can start investing into houses or even getting a house, building a family, and all those things. But with MMA, injuries happen a lot. Normally, you're probably going to have injuries all the time. You might have a little niggle here and there. I even know stories where fighters go into fights already injured because they can't afford to pay for the bills. But once the fight has happened, they can then claim that injury on that particular fight. And that is all down to not having the money to pay for those injuries or miss out on that particular fight. If you get injured, you could be out for 3 months. You could be out for 2 years. And very common injuries you're going to get, head trauma. Everyone's going to get some sort of head trauma from there. The amount of hits you take into the head over your full career is massive. Nosebleeds, to me, I'm not really bothered about nosebleeds. But broken bones, pulled muscles and cuts. I've snapped ligaments here. I've snapped them in my knee. If you can see closely, I've got cut there. And that is all for the love of the sport. But if you are only doing it for the money, I got paid, I think, £75 basically to get that cut. £75 I got paid for that particular fight. And now I have a scar on my face for the rest of my life. And that is why you've got to love the sport. If you don't love the sport, who the hell wants to get paid £75 for a cut like this? You'd happily give someone £75 to not have a scar on the middle of your face. But I didn't do it for the money, so that's not my reasons. And I loved fighting, and I loved actually that particular fight that I did get cut in. But also with fighting, there is no security. You do not know when you're going to get money. And this depends if you're injured, this depends if you can't get fights. Sometimes fights don't go through. And if you've worked that whole training camp only to get that money, and it's not come through, you're then going to be in a little bit of a problem. You do not know how much you're going to get either. Especially on the come up, you go to show, you're the away fighter, you're the home fighter. You don't know if you're going to be able to sell loads of tickets, or if you're not going to be able to sell loads of tickets, depending on the certain location. So as you're coming up, you don't really know how much you're going to get. And even on the come up, it is peanuts. So it's not really going to sustain your lifestyle. Sponsors, they come and go. If you do bad, they are probably going to stop sponsoring you. If you lose a few fights, they're probably going to stop sponsoring you. If you get injured, exactly the same thing. And if you're injured, most likely your money, because you can't fight, you can't train, and that is how you're getting paid at the end of the day. So if you're injured, sin a bit. Sacrifice. You are going to miss social events. You're going to miss lads' holidays. You're going to miss family events. I put missed because I have. And you're going to have mental and emotional toll, all down to stress, pressure, and sometimes you do get fed up of living like a brokey. Time and time again, you're looking at your wallet or your bank if you can buy a Nando's. So there's some sacrifices you've got to take, and you have to be okay with them being in your life for quite a few years or many years until you make it to the big leagues. But even when you do make it to the big leagues, you're still going to miss social events, you're still going to miss lads' holidays, and you're still going to miss family events. The stress will be a little bit less, most likely, because the money's not as much as an issue, and living like a brokey will be as well. But pressure, you will still have the pressure, which can cause people a hell of a lot of mental stress as well. Short career span. Your career isn't very long as a fighter. It's not like a normal day-to-day job, and you have a lifespan within the sport. And sometimes that lifespan isn't always up to you. Sometimes it's completely out of your hands. And what I say, if you want to fight for a living and you want to do this for a full time because you love the sport, yes, this is for you. But if you're going to do it for money, you're probably better off, if it's just for money and only money, putting all this effort into something else. Because you will probably, I'm going to say, make more money from doing that and building something of your own, a business or anything along those lines, than you will doing this. Because you're going to chase this dream for probably 15 years before you get a decent paycheck. Whereas building some sort of business, if you put all the time you did in training into a business, most likely going to make a little bit more money. Because when you train 100%, in between training you are knackered and you can't be bothered doing too much in between. With doing business, that is not the case as much, but that is why my reasons for fighting are not for the money. But that is how we do things around here, because we're built different. Get that subscribe button clicked, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bish, bash, bosh.